Face the Nation Moderator John Dickerson is with us here on set. Hey, John.
Hey, nice to be with you guys.
Good to see you. So set the picture for us tonight. What kind of big trends and storylines are we looking at?
Well, Donald Trump, how big does he win? And Hillary Clinton, how big does she win? Where does Bernie Sanders win? And is he able to make an argument out of that? If you can't run the table, you need some argument that you can take to your supporters and say, well, I won here, and if I can add that to winning somewhere else, then I can continue. That's really the argument that Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio need. So Ted Cruz has to win outside of Texas. If he wins in Texas, everybody will say, well, yeah, sure, you won at home, but could you parlay that into something else anywhere else? These states were the ones that were supposed to be great for Ted Cruz. They're in the southern band of the country. There are a lot of conservatives there, a lot of evangelical voters. If he can't win outside of Texas, it suggests that after 6 weeks of attacking Donald Trump, he wasn't able to knock him back. Marco Rubio is not looking for a big win because it's not likely. So then the question is, how does he survive past the night? What argument does he make that makes people think, look, you're still in this? Because people are going to be in a mood to say Donald Trump is on his way to the nomination.
Do you think there's a likelihood that this may not become a two-man race after today? That we may still be dealing with sort of three top candidates?
Well, you might, yeah. I mean, it depends. There's a theory that says one of the ways to stop Donald Trump is to deny him the number of delegates and keep him from having the 1,237 delegates he needs in Cleveland. One argument could say the more people in the race, the better, because they can each take some delegates away from him. The problem is that some of the people who are still in the race are not doing very well. John Kasich is an example, and so he wouldn't really be a delegate threat. So you would expect the race to winnow, because there's also a lot of pressure to get it down to just being a two-man race. But our polling and other polling shows that even if it's a two-man race, it's not necessarily the case that everybody who, for the moment, is voting for somebody other than Donald Trump will keep that.
Right. There
would be some of those voters who would go to Trump. So it's not the answer just to have it be a two-man race for those who want to get rid of Donald Trump.
Well, let's talk about the people who want to get rid of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And certainly members of the Republican Party have, for a while now, some have expressed a concern about him eventually becoming the nominee. Now we've got this hashtag Never Trump campaign starting up. What are you hearing from your sources about how the party thinks it will deal with what's, more and more looking like Donald Trump as the nominee?
So the Never Trump hashtag, that movement, that's hardly a movement. It's a hashtag.
I called it a campaign. I wasn't sure what to call it.
Well, no, there are a bunch of people who were worried about Donald Trump before he was unable to come up with an answer about white supremacists and the KKK. That has changed the sense of worry inside of the party for this reason. If you're a Republican and you're running for office in 2016, you now have to answer for things like that. Now, it's easy for any lawmaker to say, I denounce the KKK and everything it stands for, but then the follow-up question is, but why are you supporting as your party's nominee somebody who doesn't? Mm-hmm. Now, so the chill that ran through Republicans was that Donald Trump will continue to be unpredictable in this way that could be electorally damaging going through November. And, that's just the beginning of it. I mean, he also is at total policy odds with the people who are running the House of Representatives, the Republicans. The problem is, though, that there's not an easy way to stop him from getting the nomination if the voters decide they want him to be the Republican nominee.
Yeah.
And if that does happen, John, if after March 15th, for example, he is clearly the man who will get the nomination, will the Republican Party coalesce around him? Will he be able to unite them or not?
I don't. In the conversations I'm having, and these are admittedly with people who are not in the Donald Trump wing of the party, they say there will not be a coalescing. That's what we would expect. In the past, there have been bitter fights. Eisenhower and Taft in '52, Reagan and Ford in '76, even Reagan and Bush in '80. And the other side kind of gets it together. One of the ways you do it often is, Reagan brought Bush onto the ticket. At the end there, he was a little reluctant at first, but that brought the Bush people. Everybody got together. We're all in the same team. That's fine. What I'm hearing, and you hear now Ben Sasse, senator from Nebraska, saying, I'm not voting for Trump. Like, there is no coalescing around. And we've not really seen that. There was the threat that Hillary Clinton and her supporters might not go behind Obama after the bitter 2008 primary fight. They all did. She had a speaking slot at the convention. It was all tidied up pretty much. What I'm hearing is there will not be a tidying up. So then the question is, what happens to those people?
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Marco Rubio. And you talked about, after today, if he doesn't do well, he's going to have to sort of build this argument as to why people should still consider him a possibility. He's sort of changed his tactic over the last week or so. He's become way more aggressive, a little more insulting, a little more Trump-like, if you will, right? But I'm wondering, if he doesn't do well today, can we deduce that maybe that tactic didn't work, or maybe it's just that it was too little too late? People have already made their decision in regards to Marco Rubio.
It's a great question, because what it gets at is not just the tactics of Rubio, but whether anybody could have used similar tactics. And the conversations that I've been having, the best I can get from those who would like Marco Rubio to be very successful is that, well, he's trying something nobody else tried. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement for people's anticipations about whether this is going to work. Super Tuesday is not a great test of whether these worked for a couple of reasons. One, the territory is not really ripe for Marco Rubio. There are not a lot of Rubio voters in Alabama and Arkansas and Texas and Georgia. Better territory for him up in the Northeast, up in the Midwest. Unfortunately, he's got to wait for those to happen. So that's one problem. The other problem is there's been a lot of early voting that's gone on. And that all started before these attacks started taking place. And the other thing is that because he's playing on Trump's turf, he may very well sort of get into the news cycle, and that's good. But there just may not be that many voters who are appealed to by that. And we'll see over time. The national polls, too, aren't really showing a big uptick for him. 5 points may be moving, but he's still behind double digits from Donald Trump. So it may be incrementally helping him, but increments don't matter now at this point.
Yeah, maybe he's helping Ted Cruz instead.
Right,
Who knows,
for sure.
Right? Yeah.
And that's essentially, Don, when we look at the Democrats, it feels like there's a story there similar to that. Clinton had a landslide victory in South Carolina. She's now focused her attention on Donald Trump as the presumptive nominee for the GOP, not really talking a whole lot about Bernie Sanders. She still mentions him in her speeches, but it seems as if her focus is shifted. If he can't win in states other than, for example, Minnesota or Colorado, states that are not representative demographically of the Democratic Party, is his campaign essentially, do people look at it and say, look, it was a great run, but we're going to get behind Hillary? I
think they do say that. And one of the reasons it's so smart for Hillary Clinton to be focused on Donald Trump, there are a number of them. One is it puts her forward in her best light. It allows her to talk in sort of an uplifting way, contrast herself against Donald Trump and his caustic remarks. So that's good. It also makes it look like the general election has already started. It also shows voters to whom she's been making the electability pitch. In other words, I can win in November. It gives them a preview of what it would look like. And so they can start being in the mindset of, oh, you know, she looks like she's in pretty good shape for the general election. So, and it kind of moves past these primaries and Bernie Sanders. So it's a strategy they're just going to keep playing and keep using. And then the fact that Bernie Sanders is unlikely to upset her in anywhere that gives him a long-term story. He can win in liberal enclaves, but if the electorate is not very white or very liberal, he has more trouble. And that's the problem, because not only is that a problem to get a Democratic nomination, but it's also the problem because that's not the country either.
John, before I let you go, there was reporting in the New York Times that the Hillary Clinton camp is concerned, even though she's attacking Donald Trump, that in some states, come to general election, she may be vulnerable in states that went to Barack Obama. Are you hearing the same thing?
It was a long way off for that. I mean, she has her problem with the Obama coalition is it was non-whites, college-educated women, and minorities. She can do well with two of those groups. It's the minorities that she's not energizing at this, you know, huge level. So she's got some work to do to rebuild the Obama coalition. How much will Donald Trump, if he's the Republican nominee, help her in that cause? It might. It's particularly with younger voters. Usually the argument is you appeal to them with a sense of vision and a future that's optimistic, and that's what she's been trying to do, using Trump as a foil. You know, we heard her when she won South Carolina saying America has always been great. There's no need to make it great again. So that is an issue for her, rebuilding the Obama coalition. But I think another issue for her, and depending on who you talk to in her campaign, some are more realistic about this than others. If Donald Trump is the nominee, he may not win, but he is a very unpredictable candidate. And he showed when he was willing to talk about Bill Clinton's sexual indiscretions and workplace issues that he's willing to go where other politicians will not go. And that's not a comfortable position to be in if you're Hillary Clinton.
John Dickerson, thank you very much.
Thank you.